Hello my friends, Stephanie here, and I'm back with more movie chatter. And what I have for you today are some reviews and recommendations for some movies that I have. I have two movies that I got in from MVD Entertainment for review. I'm going to share those with you first, and then I'm going to take three movies that I grabbed out of my pile of things that I've watched over the last few weeks, and we will talk about those. So I'm just going to get right into it with this first one. Now this is from 2005, but I had never heard of it before. It was completely off my radar. Didn't know anything about it. But it stars Robin Williams, Holly Hunter, Giovanni Ribisi, and Woody Harrelson. And that's all I had to see. And it's a dark comedy. Boom, I'm in. It's called The Big White. And it says on the front, a cross between Raising Arizona and The Big Lebowski. A good film. And a good film it is. I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to give you a brief synopsis. This is what's on the back of the film here. I'm just leaving out a few spoilers because there's some spoilers, I think, on the back. Anyway, we have Robin Williams who plays Paul. He is a travel agent in Alaska. He's trying to sell these cruises and whatnot. Obviously, things are not going well. Business a little bit slow there. And he is married to Holly Hunter, who plays the character Margaret. And Margaret has Tourette's and I think some other ill-defined mental illness. We're not really sure exactly what's with her, but she's going with Tourette's, so we'll let her have that. Anyway, she is Paul's world. He adores her, and all he wants to do is protect her and shield her from the outside world and any stresses that could possibly set her off. So he does not tell her that the travel agency is in dire straits financially and on the verge of bankruptcy. But he has a little something in his back pocket that he's trying to play, and that is the fact that his brother has been missing for 5 years and is presumed dead. And Paul is the sole beneficiary of his $1 million life insurance policy. So as a last-ditch effort, he goes to the insurance agent and he says, listen, he's been missing for 5 years. No one has heard from him. No one has seen him. There's no sign of him anywhere. Can't we just cash in the policy? So they tell him, in Alaska, the rule is with no body, when there's no body and they're presumed dead, you have to wait 7 years. So he's got another 2 years he has to wait. He goes back. He's locking up his shop for the night, goes to throw the garbage in the dumpster, and lo and behold, someone has dumped a body in the dumpster. So he decides to hatch this plan because the body kind of could probably be passed as his brother. He hatches this plan to take this body to figure out a way to convince the insurance people that it's his long-lost brother. And in the meantime, the people who are their hitmen who dumped the body in the dumpster are told, you need to get that body back. They go back, the body's gone, and we now have a three-ring circus. And that's all I can tell you about the movie. But it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughs. There's a lot of dark humor. There are some dramatic moments, and there's a lot of funny moments. And like I said, there's terrific on-screen chemistry between Robin Williams and Holly Hunter. They both do such a great job. And Robin Williams is such a master of his craft. He was the best. He does such a good job flipping between the dramatic parts of this movie and the dark comedy. He just does it like nobody else. And I think he and Holly Hunter really pull this movie together. And it's so good and it's so much fun. And they picked the perfect place. They actually shot a lot of it in Alaska. And it's the perfect part because you really do get that Fargo feel from it. I kept saying, it feels like Fargo, feels like Fargo. And when I looked at the sheet that comes with the movie on who this movie would be good for, they specifically say people who enjoyed Fargo, either the TV show or the movie, will enjoy this. So I highly recommend this. I think it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's got that good mix of drama and dark comedy, and there's a lot of twists and a lot of turns, and I just thought it was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. So it's 105 minutes, so it's just under 2 hours, but there's not a lot of extras on it, but that's okay. I mean, the movie itself is worth it, but I would say this is a really safe blind buy. I don't know if you can stream it anywhere. I didn't really look, but it's a safe blind buy, or maybe you can, rent it on Vudu or whatnot. I'm going to link it down below. I will put the link to the MVD shop along with a link to Amazon where you can buy it direct. So definitely check out The Big White because I just thought this was a blast. And I'll show you the cover there. You can see him kind of hiding out. Hopefully that focuses. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and some of the things that Holly Hunter does, she's gonna make you laugh out loud. I promise you'll have a good time with it. And now this is the next one that they sent me. It is Lucio Fulci's The New York Ripper, and I am going to show you this cover because it is a 3D lenticular cover. I don't know if you can see that there. Hopefully you can see it because it's pretty cool, but I'm going to take it off while I talk about it because I don't know how great it'll show up back here. This is a beautiful edition, by the way. It was put out by Blue Underground, the same people who did Zombie and I think Maniac. Anyway, this takes place in New York. It was shot on the streets of New York, and what we have are women who are being brutally murdered. And it's a pretty simple premise. These women are showing up murdered. The case is given to a detective who's kind of burnt out. He's over it, and he is given the task of finding out who the person is that is responsible for these horrific, brutal murders. And it's not a story that we haven't seen before, but this film actually took it to a different level. And I think they made a really good choice in shooting it in New York because you have that really gritty, grimy, 42nd Street type of feel, and it really captures it. And that's what the movie feels like. It feels like a gritty, grimy movie. And the kills in this movie are brutal and savage. I mean, to a point that, I mean, I'm used to seeing brutal, savage kills, but these were particularly brutal, I thought. Also, the sexuality, there's, you know, horror and sex go together. They always have, they always will. But the sexuality in this one didn't really work for me because it just felt like it was really degrading and misogynistic. And this is not me being a prude because I've heard men say the same thing, that it makes you physically uncomfortable to watch what's going on the screen. And I don't know that it necessarily had to be that way to make the story work, so I don't know why they chose that route, but that's the route they chose. As far as the kills, I mean, you know, they're brutal, they're gory, they're graphic, so if you know this movie, you know what you're getting into. This is not a movie that I would suggest as a blind buy. Don't blind buy it. But if you are a fan of the movie, this is absolutely the edition that you want because they did a fantastic job with it. And like I said, I really like the decision to shoot it in New York, and I think that in itself, New York becomes a character in itself. It's a character in the movie. The location is a character because it adds so much to the movie. But they made a really weird choice too, in that while the killings are taking place, the murderer is quacking like a duck. And the murderer makes phone calls to people and the police officer and like people who are trying to look to find the murderer and quacks like a duck. I found that so odd. Like, why would you make that choice? Because when you have somebody being brutally murdered and you hear somebody quacking like a duck, and it totally took me out of the moment every single time. So yeah, it's kind of explained at the end, but I thought that was a really weird choice. So I'm kind of like this. Like, this was a first time watch for me, and I'm kind of, you know, if I had to rate it, I would say probably a 3 out of 5, but I would have to watch it again because I need to figure this one out. As far as the movie goes, I felt like the first half was all over the place, and then I felt like it kind of calmed down a little bit in the second half, because the second half is when they're really trying to get a profile of who this person would be that would commit such crimes. So the second half of the movie I enjoyed more than the first half, so we're going to leave it at that. But if you are a fan of the movie, like I said, this is definitely the edition you want, because they did a beautiful job. The 4K restoration looks awesome. It sounds great. There's so many extras. I mean, there are so many interviews and commentary. There's so much going on. There's hours of extras. And it's all the first pressing. And like I said, you get the cool lenticular 3D type slipcover. You get an essay book. So you get the essay book. You get the original motion picture soundtrack, a Blu-ray, and a DVD. So you get all of that. And then if you want to look here, if you want to pause it, you can see all the extras that you get. So it is a beautiful addition for the fans, but like I said, this is definitely not something that I would ever suggest for a blind buy. If you've not seen it before and you're interested in it, do your homework, read up on it, watch some trailers, research it a little bit, because I wouldn't suggest it. I don't want you guys to come back and hate me and say, you know, what were you thinking? But for the fans of the movie, you are going to love this. You're going to love the addition. It's a 5 out of 5 for the packaging and what they've done with the movie. And like I said, like a 3 out of 5 for the movie itself. But I have to give it another watch. So that is The New York Ripper. And again, I'm going to link MVD down in the description. I'm also going to put all their social sites, their Twitter, their Facebook, their shop, all that, their website. And I will put a link to Amazon where you can pick this up if you just want to click the Amazon link and get that. So those are the 2 titles that MVD sent to me, and I am going to grab the titles that I watched and I picked, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I have my 3 titles that I chose out of my pile. Now, these are movies that I've watched over the past few weeks, and I thought you guys would enjoy them, so I figured I would talk about them. This first one I showed in a haul, my last haul video. I showed the Steelbook version of it. But this is the Sony Picture Classics version, and it is called A Prophet. And actually, this was a nominee for 2009 for an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. And they say it's like The Godfather. A prophet serves up crime as a metaphor for life and power. And we meet our main character, who you can see here on the cover. This movie's in French, and it's subtitled in English, and he is put in a French prison, and he's in there for a period of, I think, 3 years, and he's very much a loner. He goes in, he doesn't know anybody, he's put in for something, so I think he hit a cop or something, and he's put in prison, and he gets this 3-year sentence, and he definitely tries to keep to himself, and there's different gangs. We have the Muslims and the black gang, and then we have the Italians, and all different gangs who are, you know, your typical prison setup. And the Italians kind of run things, and there's a large group of them. And then we have the main Italian guy he's the head of the whole group. And he picks up on the fact that this guy is a loner, and he decides that they are going to tell him, listen, you're going to do things for us. And because the kid is all by himself, he doesn't really have a choice. So they send him out and they tell him they want him to kill somebody. And, you know, that's how it starts. So typical prison stuff. And he starts to work for these guys. And he really, like I said, he doesn't have a choice because he's a Muslim, but he doesn't associate with the Muslims. He's got a few friends, but he doesn't want to get in with anybody. And the Italian group, they scoop him right up, and he kind of works for them. He's a runner for them. And eventually what ends up happening is a bunch of them get paroled. A large percentage of them get paroled. And the main guy is in there for life. So he knows he needs somebody to be his eyes and ears around the prison, and he chooses this kid because he's kind of proved himself. And the funny thing is that these guys, they really don't like each other. The head Italian guy and this young guy, they don't really like each other, but they're kind of stuck with each other. And I can't really get into what things go on because they're all spoilers. It's really easy to spoil this movie, but it is fantastic. It is such an interesting character piece. It's really a character study on this young man and how he changes while he's doing his prison sentence, like who he was when he walked in the door as opposed to who he is when he walks out. It's like 2 totally different people. It's kind of a long movie. It's a long watch. It's about 2 hours and 40 minutes, which for me, that's kind of pushing it. I think I did do this one over 2 nights because I was tired and reading the subtitles and whatnot, and I wanted to really enjoy it, which I did. And it definitely does have that Godfather, Scarface, that type of feel, because there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of this and that going on, and like I said, I don't want to get into any spoilers, but this was a really, really well done movie. And if you like this kind of thing, if you like the prison movies and like the Godfather type of thing, I think you're really going to enjoy this one. And the subtitles weren't so much, like the subtitles were kind of few and far between, but there's a lot of really good stuff that goes on. And this is a movie that really takes its time setting up the story. So you really get to know who this guy is. You get to know him. You get to see how he thinks. You get to see what he's doing. And you get to see him kind of change and grow as a person and as a character. So it really does take its time setting itself up. And I think that's, explains kind of the long run time. And I don't know that this is one of those movies that you would say they needed to trim some of the fat off it, because I think without that big setup, you wouldn't have the payoff at the end. But I highly recommend this one. I think you're really going to enjoy A Prophet. And this one really kind of, the special feature is delve into the criminal underworld with commentary, deleted scenes, rehearsal footage, and more. So it's not really about the special features, it's more about the movie. So I would highly recommend A Prophet. And if you're not sure about buying it, because I don't know about the rewatchability, only because of the runtime, because it's so long. So you could probably find a spot to stream it. If I can find anything, I'll link it down in the description. But yeah, A Prophet would be my first choice of my movie picks that I've watched. And now the second one, this one came out probably, it might be close to 2 months ago, a month and a half or so. And the only reason I put off picking it up is because all I kept hearing was, it is a beautifully shot movie, but it's boring and it's slow and it's this and this and this. So I put it off and somebody said to me, you need to pick it up. It is Ryan Gosling in First Man. And this is the biopic about Neil Armstrong, who we know was the first man to walk on the moon. And I can tell you, after watching this, it is anything but boring, I think. I did not find this to be boring. I did not find it to be slow. None of it. I learned so much that I didn't know about Neil Armstrong and the space program. It was great. My only regret is that I didn't watch this sooner, honestly. And I think Ryan Gosling gives such a great, understated performance, and he hits the nail on the head as playing Neil Armstrong. He's got it down. And yes, if you go in expecting like a Dunkirk, you're going to think this is boring. If you compare Dunkirk to this, yeah, you're going to think it's slow and it's boring, because they're basically telling the story of Neil Armstrong. They're telling the story of his life. They're showing his family life. They're showing things that shaped him as a person. They're showing how the space program came about. So if you're interested in all those things, you're going to love this. I was never bored. I didn't find it slow. Yes, Ryan Gosling gives a very stoic performance, but that's who Neil Armstrong was. That was his personality. And there's some things that happened in his personal life that I think shaped part of that personality. And also, I think that's who he needed to be to do the job he was doing, because at this time, when the space program was so new, there was a very good chance that even in the practice drills, they were not going to come back alive. So he had to be very calm and focused to do the job that he needed to do. And as far as the cinematography and the special effects, this is amazing. The 4K was amazing. It looked beautiful, especially when they go to the moon part. It was beautiful. It's a beautifully shot movie, and I would say to give it a look. If you're not sure about buying it, I would say at least give it a rent, but I wouldn't believe all the, that it's boring and it's slow. I think if you're interested in any kind of American history, world history, the space program, Neil Armstrong, learning more about him as a person, I think you're really going to enjoy this. And like I said, if you're looking for an action, like a Dunkirk, yeah, you might be a little bit bored, but I was never bored, and I enjoyed this from beginning to end, and I highly recommend it, and I thought Ryan Gosling was amazing. So yeah, I highly recommend First Man. That's my second choice. And this third one, going in a completely different direction, I heard about this one. I was watching Cinema Sickness, who I'm sure you guys know who Cinema Sickness is, and he actually got this recommendation from Rick at Down to Movie. I watch Rick all the time, and Rick told him to check this movie out, so he shared it on his channel. I checked it out, so now I'm sharing it on my channel. And it is called Lovelace. Wait till you hear all the people in this one. Amanda Seyfried, Peter Skarsgård, Hank Azaria, Adam Brody, James Franco, Debbie Mazar, Chris Noth, who you know from Sex and the City, Chloe Sevigny, Sharon Stone, Juno Temple. So it has quite a cast, and this is the story of Linda Lovelace, who is famous. She was a famous adult movie star. She did one movie called Deep Throat. She was in the adult movie, the adult entertainment for 17 days. 17 days was her career for that one movie. And it basically, you know, it's what she went through during that time where she was put in to make this movie, how she ended up in this position where she was put into the adult entertainment world. It shows a lot of abuse in her marriage. Her husband was extremely abusive, and how the people around her just really, some of them really looked out for her and some of them didn't. But it will definitely give you a different perspective on someone that people think they know because of one thing that she did. But I really learned a lot about her, and I found this story to be heartbreaking. It was eye-opening and heartbreaking at the same time. And it was just a shame that the people that needed to look out for her really didn't, and how she ended up in a place where she never wanted to be. She never wanted to be an adult film star, and that's what she ended up being. But I highly recommend Lovelace, and this is one that I would watch it again. You know, you may want to rent it first, give it a rent, see if you enjoy it, but I really enjoyed Lovelace, and I learned a lot about her. I'd never seen the movie. I didn't know much about her except for the fact that she did the movie Deep Throat, but that's what she was known for. And after finding out more about her personal life and how she ended up in this position, I have a little soft spot there in my heart for her, because it's really unfortunate how people end up in these positions, and you have to wonder, how many times does this really happen? I'm sure it happens more than we ever know. So yeah, Lovelace would be my last choice. So those are my picks and my reviews for the MVD titles, and those are my picks for movies that I have watched out of my own collection, and I hope you find something or a few somethings that you enjoyed. I know I enjoyed most of these for the most part, but I want to thank you guys as always for watching and hanging in there with me. I have a bunch of things I have to catch up. I took a little time off because I wasn't feeling well, but I have a lot of videos planned for the upcoming week, so I will be back again real soon. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, leave me some comments, recommendations, suggestions, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload my content again, and like I said, I'm going to be back again real soon, but for now, that's a wrap.